Fine, guys. So in the today's session, we are going to understand how to secure our applications. Basically, we are developing REST APIs by using microservices architecture. For every application, security is playing very important role. So how to secure our web applications and how to secure our REST APIs. In order to provide security for our web application, Spring Framework provided one concept called Spring Security Module. By using Spring Security Module, we can implement security that is required for our applications. When we are going for security, first thing that we need to understand what is authentication. First, we need to understand what is authentication. And the second one, we need to understand what is authorization. What is authentication and what is authorization? Before implementing security for any application, first we need to know the difference between authentication and authorization. Any idea? What is the meaning of authentication?
Who are you means authentication.
Authentication is the process of verifying the credentials, whether the user credentials are correct or not. Verifying credentials is called as authentication. Can this user log in into our application or not? Can this user access our application or not? That we are going to decide by using authentication functionality. Once authentication got successful, then we will go for authorization. Authorization nothing but can this user access specific functionality or not? Can this user access specific functionality or not? That will be decided by authorization concept. By using this Spring Security, we can implement both authentication as well as authorization. When you go for any application with respect to the security, authentication will be available and authorization will be available. Authentication means verifying the user credentials correct or not. Authorization nothing but can this user access that particular functionality or not. Security is very important for every web application. To protect our application and application data, we need to implement security logic. You no need to write a separate logic for the security in the Spring Boot. Here in the Spring Boot, they provided a concept called Spring Security. So let me create one simple application and let me show you how it is going to behave. File, new, starter project. I'm creating one simple REST API. 42 application I'm creating. 42 Spring Security application. Spring Security application. Spring Security app. Click on next. Observe carefully, guys. As of now, we used web starter. First time, I'm going to use one starter called Security Starter. In order to implement Spring Security, there is a starter called Spring Security Starter is available. Let me try this. Yeah, there is a starter called Spring Security Starter is available. When we select Spring Security Starter, by default, it will provide security that is required for our application. To secure our boot application, we need to add below starter in the pom.xml, that is Spring Boot Starter Security. I have just created one project. In that project, I have added one dependency. The name of the dependency is Security Starter. I'm not going to write any code in this application, guys, related to security. I have just added the dependency. That's it. Now, let me create one simple REST controller, new class. I'm creating one simple message REST controller. Let me keep that in a package called REST package. All right. So to represent this class as a REST controller, I'm using one annotation called @REST controller. Let me write one simple method. Public say hi. Public say hi. I'm writing one simple method. That method is mapped to HTTP GET request by using get mapping. Get mapping. Simple. I'm returning hi, how are you? That's it. So this is my method which is having get mapping, that is having slash hi. So I have created one simple REST controller. In that REST controller, I have a method. That method is mapped to get request and it is having a URL pattern. Coming to the security point, I have added a dependency called Spring Security Dependency. Spring Boot Starter Security Dependency is available. That's it. Let me refresh my project, run as boot application. Console. Yes, application started. I want to access my REST controller method. So let's go to browser and try to access that. Okay. It is running on the port number 8080. Localhost colon 8080 8080 slash hi. That's it. Now, am I able to access my REST controller? I'm not able to access my REST controller. I'm not able to access my REST controller. It is asking me to log in. Did I develop the login page? No. Then how come login page is coming here? Whenever you add Spring Security Dependency in the pom.xml, by default, it will provide authentication for our application. That authentication is called as basic authentication. I have just added dependency in the pom.xml. I have not written any code related to security, and I created one REST controller. When I'm trying to access my REST controller method, it is giving me login page, localhost colon 8080 slash hi. When I send a request to my REST controller method, automatically I have redirected to the sign in page. If I enter some dummy credentials here and click on sign in button, what is happening? So it is giving bad credential. That means authorization failed or authentication is failed. Authorization failed or authentication failed? Authentication got failed. Why authentication is failed? The credentials, whatever that application is expecting, the credentials, whatever I am providing, they are not matching. Then what are the credentials? So do I have any database integration? Did I write any logic for the security? No. Then what are the credentials I need to use to access our REST controller method? If you go to console, you can understand that using generated security password, whenever we add security dependency in the pom.xml, then by default, it is generated one random password. The default username will be user and the password will be generated on the console. Let us take the password and let us keep that password here and let us try to sign in. Okay. What is the default username I'm taking? User. What is the password? What is the password I'm using? Generated password. I can find that generated password on the console. Can you read this statement? This generated password is for development use only. Your security configuration must be updated before running your application in the production. So whatever the random password that is generated, this is for development purpose, not for the production purpose. When we want to deploy our application in the production, we need to update security configuration of our application. So as of now, I just created one boot application by using security starter and I created one REST controller. When I'm trying to access my REST controller, it is redirecting to login page. So who provided this login page? Security starter. In order to access default credentials, we have to use the default username will be user, the password already printed on the console. So let us copy this password and try to access. Take this password and keep it here. Click on sign in. Then what happened? I'm able to log in successfully. That means my authentication got success and REST controller method executed. So now second time in the same browser, when I try to access, is it asking login page or it is not asking login page? It is not asking login page. Why? Because cookies will be available. So in the web application, every time you will log in or only one time login required? Only one time login is required. When our login is successful, server sending cookie back to the browser. When I send a second request, that cookie will go back to the server. That's why our request processed successfully without asking login page. Cookies are specific to browser. Now let me go for another browser. I accessed that application in the Chrome browser. I logged in successfully. Now let me go for Firefox browser. Let me access same URL. What happened? Am I able to get the response, or it is asking me to log in? Why it is asking me to log in now? It is a different browser. Cookie is not available. Now let me access that. Username, user. If I give some dummy password, sign in. What happened? So bad credential. What is the default credential? User, password generated on the console. Let us copy this password and let us use that password. Keep it. Click on sign in. Then I'm able to access that. So my authentication got successful. If I access this URL in the same browser, is it asking to log in or not asking to log in? Not asking to log in. Why? Cookies are available in the browser. Whenever we are sending a request. Now, we developed our REST API by using security starter. This is our project REST API, which is having security. Very basic security is available, guys. Secure REST API with a security. All right. Now here my browser is available. Assume that this is one browser. Browser sending a request to the REST API. Then what this REST API is doing? First I am sending a request with a get request with a /hi. What it is sending? It is sending login page for the browser. It is giving login page as a response. Then what user will do in the browser? Fill the details in the login page. Fill the details in the login page and click on login button. So again, request will go with the credential. If credentials are valid, then that application will send the success response to the client along with the cookie. So only first time you need to log in. If your login is successful, second time onwards, you no need to log in. You will get the direct response. Let me close my browser and let me try that. Let me stop my application. Let me stop my application. Already stopped. Refresh. Now run the project. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Application started. Can you see password generated? Yes, password generated. Go to browser. Try to access the application. Localhost colon 8080. Hi. Now what happened? Yes, it is asking login page. Why? I closed my browser and I reopened. When I close the browser, cookies will be deleted. When I access my application, it is asking me to log in again. So what are the credentials? User and password. Whatever the password. Password is auto-generated by the application. In the console, password printed. Copy that password, keep it here, click on sign in. Now I'm able to get the response from the REST API. Whatever the authentication that we have done, that authentication is called as HTTP basic authentication. What is that authentication, guys? HTTP basic authentication is available. For our application, we have added Spring Security Starter. When we add Spring Security Starter for our application, it will provide HTTP basic authentication for our application. Okay, I'm able to access from the browser. I'm getting login page. I'm giving the credentials. I'm getting the response. How to access same API from the Postman? How to access the same API from the Postman? Let me go for Postman. What is Postman? A tool to test the API. Now, my API is a normal REST API or my API is a secured API now? My API is secured REST API now. I want to access secured REST API. Okay, let me go for get request 8080/hi. Click on send. What happened? What is the status code? What is the status code? Status code is 401. What is the meaning of 401? Unauthorized. Boss, you cannot access this application because it is not a normal REST API. That REST API having security. Who provided the security for the REST API? Programmer provided the security or Spring Framework provided the security? Online people, can you hear my voice properly? Online students. Yesterday video is not uploaded. By mistake in microservices, JRTP video uploaded. Hemant. In the microservice video, wrong upload అయిందంట చూడు. Microservices video wrong upload అయిందంట. 29 SBMS. JRTP video పడిందంట చూడు ఒకసారి. All right, fine. So I'm trying to access my API from the browser. When I access API from the browser, I'm getting the login page. I'm able to log in with the default credential. I'm getting the response as expected. Now I want to access same API from the Postman. When I try to access from the Postman, what is happening? Come on guys, what is happening? I'm getting unauthorized. Earlier we have seen 200. What is the 200? Success. We have seen 500. Internal server error. We have seen 404. Resource not found. Now we are seeing 401. What is the meaning of 401? 401 nothing but unauthorized. What is the meaning of unauthorized? You don't have access for this API. You don't have access for this API. You cannot access this API. Why? Why you can't access this API? This API is having security. Who provided that security? We have provided, or Spring provided the security. Spring provided security for our application. So what security provided by the Spring? What security provided by the Spring now? HTTP basic authentication. What security provided? HTTP basic authentication. When our REST API having security, then we need to provide security credentials in the request header. Now here we are having our API. This is our API. This is our client. So now our client is browser. If a client is browser, login page is coming. We are able to log in and we are able to access our API. If it is a browser, we already understood how to access secured REST API. When I access secured REST API from the browser, login page will come as a response. I will provide the credentials, and if credentials are valid, I'm able to access the REST API. I want to access from another client, that is Postman. When I send the request from the Postman, am I getting the login page? Am I getting the login page? I'm not getting the login page. Directly it is saying unauthorized. Now, how to access secured REST API from the Postman? That's where authorization comes into picture. In the Postman, can you see one tab? What is the tab available? Authorization tab is available. What authorization? HTTP basic authentication. What is this, guys? HTTP basic authentication. Select basic auth. Select that as a basic auth. So for the basic auth, we need to specify what is our username. What is our username? User. What is the password? Password available in the console. Copy that password. Keep the password here. After giving the username and password, then we can click on send button. We can click on send button. Now what happened? What happened now? I'm getting the response from the REST API for the Postman. Okay, how I'm accessing security API from the Postman? By using authentication credentials. So Postman is sending a request with the headers. What are the headers available? Normal headers available. Authorization header is also available. How authorization header will go to the server? Observe here, header will be available. Header will be available. That header is called as request header. That header is called as request header. request header. The header will be available in the form of key and value. Here, key will be authorization. Key will be authorization. Value, it will contain basic text. Basic space, encode, uname, password. Like this, the username and password will go to the server in the request header. When we are sending a request to the secured REST API, we need to pass credentials to the REST API in the request header. So in the request header, key is called as authorization, value contains basic text, space, username, password in the encoded format. Whenever we go to the postman, in the postman, we are passing authorization type as a basic auth. For the basic auth, I am giving the username, I am giving the password. When I give the username and password, if you go to a headers section, what it is saying? Key is what? Authorization. What is there in the value? Basic space encoded username and password. By using base 64 algorithm, it will encode our username and password. How it will separate the username and password? By using uname password. By using uname password. Uname password will be available. That uname password will be encoded. For encoded value, basic text will be added. The credentials will go to the REST API in this format. As the credentials are matching, then we are able to access our REST API. Click on send. I'm getting the response. Once I get the response, here cookies will be available. What is the cookie? JSession ID is the cookie. Let me delete that cookie. Let me delete that cookie. Okay, guys. If I delete the cookie, then what will happen? Click on send. Then again, cookie will be generated. JSession ID cookie generating. I'm deleting the cookies and I'm removing this authentication type also. What is the type I have given? No auth. What is the meaning of that? I'm not using any authentication now. Cookies are available or cookies are not available? Cookies are not available. Click on send. What happened now? Again, we are getting the response as 401. 401 nothing but unauthorized. My REST API is secured by using basic authentication. I know the username and I know the password. So here, who is converting username and password to this format? I am converting or postman converting? Postman converting that. So let's go for postman. Select the type. What is the authentication type? Basic auth, username, user, password, copied from the console. That's it. Click on send button. Now what happened? I'm getting response from the API. So successful response I'm getting from the API with the status code as 200. Now let's read these points. How to secure REST APIs using Spring Boot. So when we go for security, two important concepts will be available. What are those two concepts? One is authentication. Second one is authorization. What is the difference between authentication and authorization? What is the meaning of authentication? Authentication means verifying credentials of the user, whether user is having valid credentials or not. Whether user is having valid credentials or not. Authorization means can this user access that functionality or not. Okay, next one. Here, security is very important for every web application. So you can't imagine a web application without security in the real time. So for every project, security will be implemented. Why we need to implement security for our application? Why we need to implement security for our application? To protect our application data from the hackers, we are going for security. In order to implement the security, Spring Framework provided one module. How we have core module, JPA module, WebMVC module, REST module. Similarly, there is a module called security module. By using that security module, we can implement security for our application. Are you clear? Right. In order to implement security for the project, we need to add one dependency that is called Spring Boot Starter Security Dependency. I just created the project by using security dependency automatically security available for my application. Can I call this as auto configuration? Can I call this as auto configuration? I am not developing the login page. I am not verifying the credentials. Everything taken care by Spring Boot Security Starter. That is power of the Spring Boot. If you add JPA Starter, connection pool will be created. If you add Web Starter, Tomcat server will be started. If you add Security Starter, authentication will be implemented. So can I consider that as auto configuration? What is the meaning of auto configuration? What is the meaning of auto configuration? Providing the configuration required for our application based on the dependencies available in the pom.xml. If I add web starter, what happening? If I add web starter, what happening? Tomcat server getting started, right? If I add JPA starter, Hikari connection pool is creating. If I add security starter, authentication screens are implemented. Authentication screens are implemented. Whenever we add this dependency in the pom.xml, then by default, our application will be secured with the basic authentication. Suppose here in the REST controller, I have one method called the hi method. Let me go for hello method. Say hello. Say hello. So here that security will be applicable for all the methods that are available in our application. I'm having hi method and I'm having hello method. Now let me stop it. Let me close the browser. Cookie will be deleted. Refresh. Run as boot application. I'm running this project. Boot application. Go to browser. Localhost colon 8080/hi. When I try to access hi, what is happening, guys? Am I able to access the method or it is redirecting to login page? Redirecting to login page. Let me go for another method. Localhost colon 8080/hello. What happened? Again login page. So security is implemented for one method or it is implemented for all the methods? If you have multiple REST controllers also, all the REST controller methods will be secured by default. When we add the dependency in the pom.xml file, then by default, our application will be secured with the basic authentication. It will generate random password to access our application. Where we can see that password? Where we can see that password? Whatever the random password is generated, that random password we can see on the console. So what are the default credentials? Username will be user. What will be the password? What will be the password? Copy the password from the console. When we run our application, password will be printed on the console. Take this password, go here, username is user, password, sign in. What method I am able to access? Hello, how are you? Let me go for hi method now. Do I need to log in again? How many times you will log in the application? Only one time. Hi is accessible and hello is accessible. Yes. So here first time it will ask for authentication. If authentication is successful, then we can access all the methods that are available in the application. From the browser, when I access, login page is coming. Suppose if I want to access same application from the Postman, how can I access that application from the Postman? To access secured REST API from Postman, we need to set authentication values in the Postman to send a request. So now here in the Postman, we have a tab. Authorization tab is available. What security is available? Basic authentication. Select the type as basic authentication. Give the username and password. Then click on send button. If our username and password is correct, then we are able to access our API. Otherwise, we cannot access our API. Are you clear? Internally, how Postman sending the credentials to the server? How it is sending credentials to the server? By using request header. What is the request header? Key. Authorization is the key. What is the value? What is the value? Basic space. Encode the username and password by using colon separated. Okay, now suppose I have secured REST API. I have secured REST API. So assume that this is secured REST API. This is secured REST API. Now here I have another client API. I have another client API. Let's assume this is also one API. This is called as client API. This API is secured by using basic authentication. How this client application can access another application? How one API can access another API? Come on guys, how one API can access another API? In the three ways. What are the three ways? One is by using REST template, another one is by using web client, another one is by using PN client. Now, can we develop a client to access secured REST API? By using REST template, we can do that. By using web client, we can do that. By using PN client, we can do that. Can you guys try that as a task? You need to develop one REST API, which should contain HTTP basic authentication. For that API, you need to develop one client application. What you need to do from the client application? You need to access secured REST API. If you want to access secured REST API, you need to send request header. The request header key should be authorization value in this format. How to send authorization header in the request? That is the important part. So in the real time, all the REST APIs will have some security. If one application want to communicate with the another application, security will be available. When there is a secured REST API, how to develop the client application? That is the task for you. Can you guys think and try to do that? So simple, I have a REST API which is having security. How you will develop one API to access my secured REST API? How you will pass the credentials in the request? By using request header. I told you what is the key and what is the value. No, we will come to that. We'll come to that. Password I will give you. What is the username and what is the password? So if you assume that you know the username and password, how you will access that? Okay. Are you clear with the assignment? What is the assignment? How to develop a client application to access secured REST API. What security available? Basic security is available. Okay. What are the credentials for that secured application now? What is the default username? User. What is the password? That is generated by the system. It is printing on the console. Now, I am not interested for default credentials. Whatever the credentials that are generated by the system, I don't like those credentials. I want to override those credentials. I want to set my own username and password. For secured REST API, it is considering default credentials. I don't want to go with the default credential. It is my application. I want to decide my own username and password to access my API. That is called overriding default credentials provided by Spring Security. What is that concept? Overriding default credentials provided by Spring Security. To override default credentials provided by Spring Security, we can use our properties file or we can use our YML file. Let's check that. Spring.security.username. I'm giving the username as Ashok IT. Spring.security.user.password. Security.user.password. I'm giving some ABC@123. So earlier I have not added these properties. If I don't add these properties, then what will happen? It will consider default credential. What are the default credential? Username is user, password printing on the console. I don't like those credentials. I want to configure my own credential. If I want to configure my own credential, then we need to configure like this. Spring dot security dot user dot name is equal to some value. Spring dot security dot user dot password is equal to some value. Then let me refresh my application. Let me run this project. Run as boot application. Go to console. Password generated or password not generated? Earlier password generated and printed on the console. But this time password generated or not generated? Not generated. Why? We are overriding default credentials provided by the Spring Security. Now let's try to access our application. Let's try to access our application. Go here. Localhost :8080/browser cookies are available. Open this. Now, localhost :8080. Hi. It is asking for credential. Okay. Can I give user and can I give some password? What happened? Bad credential. So where are the credentials available? Credentials I have configured in the properties file. Username Ashok IT, password abc@123. Give the customized credential. Click on sign in. Am I able to access now? Yes. Go for Postman. In the Postman, authorization header is available. If I give no auth, then go for cookies, delete the cookie. Okay, delete the cookie. Fine, send. What is coming? 401 unauthorized. Go for basic auth. What is the username? Customized username. Can I try with the previous credentials? Can we try with the previous credentials? Try that. Click on send. What I'm getting? 401. Remove this. The username is Ashok IT. Password is abc@123. You can check that. Username I have given and password I have given. Send. Then what happened? I'm getting the response. So do you know how to override default credentials provided by Spring Security? Yes. How to override default credentials provided by Spring Security? Come on, guys. Come on, fast. By writing security properties in our properties file or YML file. Same point I have mentioned. How to override Spring Security default credentials. Can you read this? To override default credentials, we can configure security credentials in the properties file or YML file like below. So spring.security.user.name and user.password. These are the predefined keys. After configuring the credentials like above, we need to give above credentials to access our application or API. It can be a REST API or it can be a normal application also. Are you clear with these points now? Yes, good. How to implement security in the REST API? What I have done as of now. Did I write any code? Did I write any code for that? Then how security is coming? How security is coming? I have just added one dependency in the pom.xml. What is the dependency? Spring Boot Starter security dependency I have added. With that, basic authentication provided for our application. As part of the basic authentication, some default credentials will be considered. Username will be user, password will be printed on the console. I don't like them. I want to override. In order to override, I need to configure properties like this in the YML file. Now, in order to access our application, this is the username and this is the password. Are you guys clear? Now, you need to customize your REST API like this. For that REST API, you need to develop a client application. From your client application, you should be able to access REST API. What is the important point here? When you are trying to access the REST API, you need to send a request along with the header. What should be there in the header? Authorization, username and password. What is the format to send the header? This is the format you need to send in the header. You need to take the username and password. You need to encode the username and password. You need to append basic text for that. You need to use the key as a authorization. Then only we can access that secured REST API. Are you clear? Perfect. Next one. Here, guys, my REST controller having two methods. My REST controller having two methods. Are a simple example. Let me go for our website. Let me go for our website. In our website, we are having some pages. Class notes page is available. You can see the notes, right? And you can see training schedules. In our application, login page is available, and without login also, you can access some functionalities. For example, you want to see online batches schedule. Okay, go to online training. When you go for online training, is it asking for login or timetable is coming? Timetable is coming. Login, is it asking for login? Not asking for login? Not asking for login. When you go for contact us, for contact us page, only logged in users can access or anybody can access. Contact us page, anybody can access. About us page, anybody can access. Class notes, only logged in users can access the class notes. That means in our project, several functionalities will, observe carefully guys, very important point. In our project, several functionalities will be available. Okay. For all the functionalities, do we need security? No. Only for some functionalities, we need a security. For some functionalities, security not required. Suppose login page is available. Public users can access my login page. They can log in into my application. Anybody can access login page in my project. Anybody can access registration page in my project. Anybody can access about us page. Anybody can access contact us page in our application. Some functionalities can be accessed by anyone in our project. Few functionalities requires a security, requires a authentication. Okay, but here our Spring Security will consider every method as a secured method. Now I am having two methods in my application. Hi method is available, hello method is available. So by default, both methods are having authentication. Let me stop the project. Let me close the browser. Let me run this again. Run as boot application, or else let me add one more method. Public string contact. Public string contact. I will return call us some number. Okay. Call us. So contact method is available. Let me go for @get mapping. @get mapping. I'm having contact as a URL pattern. For this method, security required or security not required? Not required. Assume that these are my business methods. This is normal method. There are three methods available in the REST controller. Okay. Let me go here, refresh, run this application. Run as boot application. Run as boot application. Clear the console. Right. Go to browser, localhost colon 8080/hi. Am I able to access? Not able to access. Not able to access. Expected. That is a business method that requires authentication. Anybody cannot access that method. They need to log in, then only they can access that method. Go for next one. Localhost colon 8080 hello. Expected. That method is also having security. Authentication required. Let me go for next method. contact. Okay. What happening? What is happening? For contact method also, it is asking me to log in. If anybody click on contact us in the website, can I ask them to log in my project? Public users are available. They want to contact our institute. When they click on contact us, can I ask them to log in? No. Here, this is the problem. In our application, we are having security. Spring security dependency I have added. With the Spring security dependency, we are getting basic authentication. That basic authentication credentials I am overriding by writing the properties. And the thing is, in our application, security is applicable for all the methods. In our application, security is applicable for all the methods. Now, we need to inform security that, hey boss, for these methods, security not required. For the remaining methods, security required. I need to provide some information for the Spring security, for which methods security not required, for which methods security required. For that, we need to go for security customization. Are you guys able to follow me? What I need to do for that? I need to go for security customization. Security configuration we have to do. In our application, how we have done? Redis configuration. Similarly, we need to go for security configuration. I have to customize security required for our application. In that customization, what I will tell, if any request comes with the /contact URL pattern, you allow the request. If any request comes with the /contact, you allow the request. If any other request comes, you stop it. You ask them to log in. If they log in successfully, then only allow the request. Otherwise, don't allow the request. That configuration we have to implement in our project. That is called security configuration. Are you guys able to follow me? What is the problem in this project now? What is the problem in this project now? When we add security starter, by default, security is applicable for all the modules that are, all the methods that are available in the application. But if you think in the real-time scenario, in our project, several methods will be available. For all the methods, security not required. For few methods only security required. For few methods, security not required. I know the requirement, but Spring security don't know my requirement. What Spring security doing? It provided the security for all the methods available in the application. Now what we need to do? What we need to do? We need to do the security configuration. In that configuration, what we have to tell? For which URL patterns security is required? For which URL patterns security not required? Okay, let us see how we are going to do that. How to secure specific URL patterns in the application. Are you guys getting my point? So there are 3 URL patterns available in the application, but I want to secure only 2 URL patterns. I don't want to security for this contact URL pattern. That is the concept. How to secure specific URL patterns by using Spring security. Are you guys clear? This is also called as method level security. Method level security. When we add security starter in the pom.xml, then it will apply security filter for all the HTTP methods of our application. So in our application, there are 3 HTTP methods are available. For those 3 methods, I don't want. For only 2 methods I want. For 1 method, I don't want. Let us take one example. There is a banking application. Assume that there is a banking application. Amount to transfer, security required. Balance checking, security required. What about login page? Security not required. What about us page? security not required. What about contact us page? What about contact us page? For that, security not required. Okay. For login page, security not required. For balance amount to transfer, security required. For balance checking, security required. For about us, contact us, security not required. But what is happening here? Come on, read that point. When we add security starter in the form.xml, then when we add security starter in the form.xml, then it will apply security filter for all the HTTP methods of our application. But in the reality, we need to secure only few methods, not all methods in our application. Online students, are you able to follow me? No? Who is that? Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So what we learned as of now? We understood what is Spring Security and how it is working by default, right? Spring Security is one module in the Spring framework. By using that, we can secure our web applications, right? In order to work with Spring Security, we need to add security starter in the form.xml. That's it. You no need to do anything else. You no need to do anything else. You just add the security starter, then by default, it is providing basic authentication for our application. Some default credentials it is providing. Username will be user, password will be generated on the console. That is a random password. By using that, we can access our methods. If I don't like those credentials, can I customize? Can I override default credentials of Spring Security? Yes. How can we do that? How can we do that? By configuring them in the application.properties file. By configuring them in the application.properties file. Okay. And what is the default behavior of a security starter? What is the default behavior of the security starter? It will apply security for all the HTTP methods in the application. But can we develop a project like that? No. Why? In our project, security is not required for all the functionalities. In the real-time project, some functionalities can be accessed directly without login. For some functionalities, login is required. Authentication is required for few screens. Authentication not required for few screens. By default, authentication applicable for all the methods in the application. Now I need to tell to Spring Security for which URL patterns security not required, for which URL pattern security required. Are you clear with that? Fine. So in order to do that, we need to write some configuration. So this is the configuration that we need to do for that. Okay. That is called security configuration. In that we need to override, in that we need to write one method called security filter. HTTP security object we are going to take. For that security object we are going to specify for which URL patterns security not required, for which URL pattern security is required. This is a lambda expression. Okay, let us see that. Let me create security configuration class, new class config. I'm taking the class name as security configurer. In this class, I will write the logic to decide for which URL patterns security required, for which URL patterns security not required. Okay. First of all, I want to represent this class as a configuration class. To represent our Java class as a configuration class, we will use configuration annotation. This class is used to provide security for our application. So let me specify enable web Spring web security. enable web security. So see here, configuration and web security annotations I have used. In that, I need to write one method. So here, I am writing this method. For this method, I am writing @bean. Can you tell me what is the purpose of @bean annotation? What is the purpose of @bean annotation? That is used to tell to IOC, you create the object for this by calling the method. Now, let me write that public security filter chain. Now I will write security filter. For this security filter, I need to customize the security based on HTTP. So let me go for HTTP security. Now HTTP dot build. I am using. Okay. Right. So observe this method. I'm writing for this method. I'm writing one annotation called bean annotation. What is the purpose of configuration? Configuration is used to represent our Java class as a configuration class. What is this annotation? Enable web security, to tell that this class is used to enable security configuration in our application. I'm writing one method. That method is returning security filter chain as a return type. And what is the parameter? HTTP security. HTTP.build, that will return that security filter chain object I am returning. Inside this, we need to write our logic. Inside this, we need to write the logic to customize security. First of all, let's verify this filter is calling or not. Security filter called. I want to see really this is security filter calling or not for our request. Let me stop the server. Close the browser also. Right. Refresh. Right click, run as boot application. What happened? Security filter called. That means that method got executed. Clear the console. Now, just I created one class, right? In that I am writing one method. Let me go to browser, localhost :8080/hi. Okay, it is accessed by default. Let me stop this. Browser closed or not closed? Refresh. Run as boot app. Filter got called. Go to this browser. Hi. Now I'm able to access. Now go for localhost :/hello. I'm able to access. Localhost :contact. Is it asking me to log in or it is not asking me to log in? It is not asking me to log in. First time my filter is executed. Is there any logic available in the filter to customize the security? Logic is not available in the filter. So how many times this filter is executing? Only one time, that too when our application got started. When the application started, my filter is executed. In that filter, is there any logic available for security? Logic not available for the security. Then what happened? It is allowing all methods to access. Contact method I am able to access. Hello method I am able to access. Hi method I am able to access. But what is our requirement? Only first method we should be able to access without authentication. The remaining methods should have authentication. That logic we need to customize by using our filter. So here HTTP is already available. By using this HTTP object, we are going to specify authorize the request. Which request we need to allow, which request we should not allow, that we are going to decide by writing 2 lines of code. Okay, let us see here. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. I'm taking request object, request dot ant matchers, request dot ant matchers, request dot ant matchers, that is used to specify which request we need to allow and which request we should not allow. Request dot ant matchers dot permit all. Request dot ant matchers dot permit all dot any request authenticated. How it should be authenticated? By using dot form login. Now here I am going to specify /contact. I'm going to specify /context. Here let me write this logic once again. I am getting HTTP object. Okay, for this HTTP object belongs, this HTTP object belongs to HTTP security. For this security, I want to tell that when request comes with this URL pattern, you permit that. That means you allow that. If any other request comes which is not matching with this URL, you authenticate that request by using login form. That is the meaning of that code. Shall I repeat once again? Yes. So here I am writing one REST API. I developed one REST API. In that REST API, I added a dependency called security starter. When I add that security starter, by default, it is implementing authentication for all the methods available in the application. But my requirement is I want authentication for last 2 methods, but not for the first method. When I send a request for the first method, I should get the response directly. When I send a request for last 2 methods, it should ask me for authentication. If my authentication successful, then only it should allow me to access. Otherwise, it should not allow me to access. To do that customization, I am creating one security configurer class. So to represent that class as a configuration class, I am using @configuration annotation. Okay, guys. Next one, I am writing one more annotation called enable web security annotation to represent that this class is used to customize the security related to our web application. Okay, and I am writing one method. So what is the method that I am writing? Public security filter chain. Security filter chain will hold security context of our application. When our application started, what is the security available? It will load the security settings. It will store in that filter chain. Okay, so here you can write method name as anything. In order to customize that security, I'm going for HTTP security. What this method should return now? Security filter chain object. To do that, I'm going for return HTTP.build. What it is returning? Default security filter chain object it is returning. It is throwing some exception. Let me handle that exception by using throws exception. Either you can go for try catch block. I want IOC container to call this method when the application started. How can I tell to IOC to call this method when the application started? By using @bean annotation. By using @bean annotation. Are you clear? Fine. Next, let me configure the logic. What is our logic? If request comes with a contact, permit that. Otherwise, authenticate that. See that. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. For that, I am going for request. Okay. So any request that comes here, request dot ant matchers, any request which matched with that any request that is matched with the given URL pattern. What is that? /contact. Then what it has to do for that? What it has to do that? Permit all dot any other request then authenticated. How it should be authenticated? By using .form login. You got my point? Can I configure multiple URL patterns also? Yes, /login. Okay. If any request comes with the Swagger, then I will go for swagger-ui.html. What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of that, guys? What is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of configuring these three URL patterns? If a request comes with a /contact, it will permit that. /login, it will permit that. Swagger UI, it will permit that. Any other request comes, authenticate that. Let me show you here. Let me write one more method, /login. Just here I'm giving login page. Just I want to see whether we are able to access that method or not without authentication. There are 4 methods available. Out of the 4 methods, these 2 URL patterns I have excluded, right? Permit all. If the request matching with if a request which is coming is a URL pattern matching with these 3, then I'm calling permit all. Any other request comes, then authenticate that request by using form login. Then return HTTP object. So here, whatever the HTTP coming, if I don't write this logic, it will permit all the requests. It will permit all the requests. But I don't want to permit all. I want to customize the HTTP object. So HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. The request which is matching with this URL pattern, you permit that. Any other request, you authenticate that by using form login. I am customizing the HTTP object. Then I am building that HTTP object to return the filter. How many times this filter will execute? System.out.println security filter called. Security filter method called. I'm writing that SOP to understand how many times that method is getting called. Stop this server. Close your browser. I want that cookie to be deleted. Refresh, right click, run as, boot application. Yeah, can you see what is the message? What is the message? Security filter method call. That means application security already configured at the time of application startup only. It called that filter method. It understood for which URLs security not required, for which URLs security required. That is already stored in the security context. That already stored in the security context. Now go to browser. Let me try localhost :8080/hi. What happened? What happened now? It is asking for authentication. Go for hello 8080/hello. Authentication happened. Now let me go for /contact. /contact. Is it asking me to authenticate? No. For hi, hello, it is asking. For contact, not asking. Let me go for login. 8080/login. No, /login it is coming. /login, get mapping, /login. It should not come, man. Request dot. Maybe this is the default URL pattern. Yeah, we need to change the URL patterns. Login check. Right, let me give it as a login check. Yeah. Login check. Stop it. Close this. Refresh, right click, run as, boot application. Yeah, filter method already called. Clear the console, go to browser, localhost 8080/login check. What happened now? Login. It is not asking. Why it is not asking? Why it is not asking? I already configured that URL to permit that. So this is called Spring Security customization. I'm telling to security, any request comes with these URL patterns, you permit those requests. If any other request comes, then you authenticate that request. Okay. So let me go for other one, localhost colon 8080/hi. When I access a hi URL, authentication is happening because it is not part of this URL patterns. Okay. Let me go for localhost colon 8080/hello. Not accepting. Okay. Localhost colon 8080/contact. So contact page I'm able to access, login page I'm able to access, but hi I'm not able to access. I'm not able to access, and hello also I am not able to access. Sorry. Hello also I'm not able to access. Now can I log in and can I access that? Yes. Where the credentials available? Credentials I have configured in the properties file. Let me go for that. Username, password, sign in. Hello, how are you? Now let me go for hi. Hi, how are you? I'm able to access. So if I log in, I'm able to access both methods which are having the security. Look at this code. This is security customization. How many times a security filter will be called? Only one time that security filter will be called. Okay. So contact and Swagger UI.html, because Swagger documentation I want to access. Swagger UI page I want to access. For that security not required. So I'm excluding that URL pattern. Permit all. Request.ant matchers. If the request is matching with these URL patterns, permit them. Any request which is not belongs to these two, then authenticate that. How to authenticate that? By using form login. That login page is our login page, or it is provided by Spring Security. That login page is provided by Spring Security. Clear, guys? Now, internally, so many things will execute in the Spring Security. Whatever the credentials we are configuring here, in order to verify our credentials, Spring Security will use Authentication Manager. What is the concept, guys? Authentication Manager concept will be available. Authentication Manager is responsible to load the credentials available in our properties file by using one class called User Details Service. What is that class name? User Details Service. Now we need to talk about more customization in the Spring Security. As of now, we understood basic authentication. We understood basic authentication, how to override default credentials, and we understood security configuration to secure specific URLs. Security configuration to secure specific URLs. Now we need to talk about what is user and what is user details service and what is authentication manager. So these all are predefined components that are provided by security in the Spring. One is called user, second one is called user details service, third one is called as authentication manager. Prasad, why are you laughing? Navastunda? Yeah. Before going for the next topic, anybody having any questions? So these are little confusing, guys. So we need to understand these topics as well, because as of now, credentials are hard coded in the properties file, but in the real time, where the credentials will be maintained in the database. Now we need to perform authentication with the database credentials. In order to understand authentication with the database credentials, we need to understand these three components first. First one is user, second one is user detail service, third one is authentication manager. Before jumping into that, anybody having any question? Now we will come to that point. That is user detail service and authentication manager. In our mini project, we implemented authentication. That is our own logic. If you use Spring Security, you no need to do that. Spring Security will do your authentication. At that time, we don't know the security. So a lot of code we can reduce by using Spring Security. Yes. Any questions, anyone? Before jumping into next topic, we discussed about three concepts now. What is basic authentication? How to override default credentials? How to test it from the browser? How to test it from the postman? What is the request header we need to send to access the secured REST API? How to override the default credentials, and how to customize the configuration to secure only specific URLs. In my project, 100 URLs available. For 10 URLs, security not required. For the remaining 90 URLs, security required. How we are doing that? By using this security configuration class. Security filter chain with the security HTTP security object I'm taking. By using that HTTP, I am calling authorize HTTP request. And matches nothing but any request which is matching with this URL pattern. Any HTTP method URL is matching with this URL pattern, you allow that request. No need to authenticate that. It is public URL, anybody can access. Apart from this, if any other request comes, you authenticate that request by using form login. So this is security customization I'm doing by using security filter. When this security filter will be executed, only first time or for every request? Whenever we start our application, it will load that security filter chain. It will store the data in the security context. Okay, in the servlets, I explained a concept called servlet config and servlet context. What is the difference between servlet config and servlet context? For every request, one config object will be created. For throughout application, one context object will be created. Here, security will be maintained in the config object or context object. Security will be maintained in the config or context. Context. For our application, one security will be available. Perfect. Now, we need to implement database authentication. So as of now, we are using default credentials provided by Spring Security. They are only telling that don't use these credentials for the production. These are very basic for your development purpose. So I don't like that. So I'm going for my own credential. But where I am configuring my own credentials, I'm configuring my own credentials by using properties file. Okay. But is this recommended? Why not recommended? Hard-coded values. So here I'm giving only one user data I am giving. But in the real time, our application will be accessed by multiple users. My credentials will be different. Your credentials will be different. Her credentials will be different. All our credentials will be stored in the database table. When user credentials are available in the database table, how Spring Security will verify the user given credentials in the login page matching with database credentials or not? The credentials which are available in the database or not. Let us see that. Now Spring Security is providing one login page, guys. Very good. We no need to develop a login page from now because Spring Security providing the login page. In this login page, it is asking username. It is asking username and it is asking password also, and a login button is available. Login button is available. So as of now, I have configured my credentials in the application.yml. I configured my credentials in the application.yml or application.properties. I configured like this: user.name is equal to some value and user.password is equal to abc@123. Now, am I writing any code to verify these credentials are correct or not, which are given by the user in the login page? So that means credentials I have configured in the properties file. Credentials I am entering in the login page. Observe carefully, guys. The magic we need to understand now. The magic we need to understand. I have configured my credentials in the properties file. When I access my application, I am getting one login page. In the login page, I am giving my username and password. I am clicking on the login button. Whatever the credentials I am entering in the login page, those credentials should match with credentials available in the properties file. Are we doing that checking? Are we doing that validation? Then how it is happening? Internally, some code is executing by Spring Security. Are you guys able to follow me? Internally, some code is executing by security. So what code is executing in the background? Because it's very clear. I configured credentials in the properties file and a login page is coming. There is no login controller. There is no login method. When I access my method, when I access my REST API, this login page is coming. It is asking me to enter some credential. If I give wrong data, it is giving an error message, bad credential. So if I give the right credentials, then only it is allowing me to access my API. But my question is, who is validating my credentials are correct or not? How they are validating my credentials are correct or not? Come on. Come on, guys. Spring Security is doing that. So what Spring Security is doing that here, between this login page and properties file, Spring Security comes into picture. Login page is coming in the UI. Credentials are available in the properties file. Some code is executing in the middle. That code is deciding user given credentials are matching with the credentials available in the properties file or not. If a user given credentials are not matching with property file credential, error message coming as bad credential. If a user given credentials are correct, which are matching with the property file credential, then only it is allowing me to access my API method. So can I say that some code is executing in the background? Yes. Who is executing that code? That code is executing by Spring Security. If we understand that code, then we can customize that code to check the credentials from the database, not from the properties file. The default code is checking credentials matching with the properties file credentials or not. In future, I want to check user given credentials are matching with the credentials available in my database table or not. That is the real-time security implementation. Are you clear? Now, whenever we observe carefully, guys, three components we need to understand. If you understand the three components, then you will get the clarity how that security checking is happening. Whatever the username and password I am configuring, Spring Security will consider this as one user object. What is that? It will consider that as one user object. There is a predefined class in the Spring Security with a name called user. What is that, guys? User class is available. Can you read this? org.springframework.security.core.userdetails.user. Now let's go to this user. Is this my class or it is the class provided by Spring Framework? This is the class which is provided by Spring Framework. This class having what? Username variable, password variable, authorities available, account non-expired, account locked, credentials non-expired, enabled. There is a predefined class available. There is a predefined class available with a name called user. Whatever the credentials we are configuring in the properties file, those credentials will be loaded to user class object. Are you clear? Now, whatever the credentials I'm configuring here, those credentials will be loaded by Spring Boot security will store into user object. That is our user object or security user object? Security user object. Now, here authentication manager component will be available. Auth manager will be available. Auth manager is a predefined class in the Spring Security. Auth manager is responsible to verify login form credentials are matching with user object data or not. Are you guys getting the clarity now? Here in the security in the background, there is one class with a name called authentication manager. Let me show you that class as well. What is that available, guys? Authentication manager builder is available and authentication manager component is available. This authentication manager is a interface that is available in the Spring Security. What is that? Authentication manager is available. Now, this authentication manager having a method. What is the method? Authenticate method is available. So what is the purpose of authenticate method? Compare user given credentials in the login page matching with the user object data. What is there in the user object? Whatever the data that is available in the properties file, that data loaded to user object. Now, this authentication manager to load the user object, it will use one more component called user details service. What is that class, guys? User details service component will be used. So now user details service will act as a mediator between our user object and authentication manager. So user details service is going to load the user object, will give the user object to authentication manager. Authentication manager will take the data from the login form and will verify that the data matching with the data available in the user object or not. If it is matching, it will allow the request. If it is not matching, it will send bad credentials as a message. These three components are executing internally. User object, user detail service, and authentication manager is available. Now, what I need to tell to authentication manager? Don't go for the properties file user data. Go for a database user data. So I need to customize that. Look at that diagram. Completed? Right. Now here we need to go for Spring Security with the JDBC authentication. When we are going for JDBC authentication, we need to specify to the authentication manager, you take the data from the database and you verify. For that, we are going to configure authentication manager. For the authentication manager, what we are going to tell, you take the data from the database. And here, if you observe JWT concept here, user details service concept will be available. Here, our service class will implement Spring user details service. What we will tell to user details service, in that there will be a method load user by username. In that we are going to specify you load this data or you load the data from the database, something like that we are going to specify. Now I want to implement Spring Boot with JDBC authentication. Spring Boot with the JDBC authentication. So here, as of now, whatever the credentials are required, those credentials we configured in the properties file. Now I don't want the credentials in the properties file. I want to configure credentials in the database. Okay. For that, we have a project. Now, Spring Boot security with JDBC authentication. That means I want to take one database table. I want to take one database table. In that database table, I will maintain users data. Okay, users data. And I will take one more database table that is called authorities table. Okay, authorities table contains roles of the users. Okay, users data will be available here, and users data and user roles data. User roles data. We are going to learn role based security. That means here in future what I will do, this method should be accessible only by admin user. This method should be accessible by admin plus normal user. Today morning we discussed in the project. Case worker can access only some menu items. Admin can access all the menu items. That means some methods should be accessible only by the user who is having admin role. Some methods can be accessible by admin user plus normal users also. Are you able to follow me like that? I want to go for role based security. So to maintain that, we are going to take two tables in the database. One table is called as users table. Another table is called as authorities table. User table will contain user data. Authorities table will contain roles data. Okay. So first let me set up database table. Now here if you see, set up database tables with the required data. So this is the users table. User table. User table will contain username, password, and user account enabled or disabled. Okay. Primary key will be the username, or you can take user ID also as a primary key. Authorities table will be available. What is the meaning of authorities table? Username and what is the authority for the username. For that, foreign key will be available. So username will be available in the users table as well as in the authorities table. Username I'm taking as a foreign key between those two tables, users table and authorities table. Let me go for a database. Use JRTP. Yeah, table database selected. Use JRTP, show tables. Some tables are available. Let me go for a table creation with a name called users. Create a table with a name called users. Yeah, user table got created. Let me create another table called authorities table. Authorities table is also created. Now I need to insert some data into user table, and authorities table. When I'm inserting the data, I want to keep the password in the encrypted format, not the normal password. I want to go for encrypted password. To do that encryption, I'm going for bcrypt algorithm. In the online, directly you can encrypt your password. Okay. So bcrypt generator is available. String is available. For admin, I want to give the password as admin@123. Click on encrypt. Okay. This is the password which is encrypted by using bcrypt algorithm. Username I am taking as admin only. Password I am taking as admin@123, which is in the encrypted mode. Another one I am taking as normal user. For the normal user, I want to give the password as user@123. Click on encrypt. So this is the encrypted value. Take this value and keep this. So I'm trying to insert two records into database table. One record I'm taking as admin user. Password is admin@123 in the encrypted format. Second user I'm taking as a normal user. The password is user@123. Let me insert these two records. Let me insert these two records into database table. One is admin user record. Second one is normal user record. Okay. Two records got inserted. Now, for these two users, I want to give the roles. For admin, I'm giving the two roles. Admin can use admin role and admin can use normal user role also. For the normal user, I'm giving only normal user role. So admin user having two roles. He can act as a admin and he can act as a normal user. Admin can access admin functionality plus user functionality also. What about normal user? He can access only normal user functionality. So I'm giving the roles for the users. Go to database. 3 records I'm inserting. Right. Records got inserted. Now go for select star from user table. Select star from users table in the database. Check the data. Select star from users. Execute it. Now check it. How many records available in the user table? 2 records. One is admin record. Second one is user record. How password is stored? Direct password or encrypted password? Encrypted password. What is the password I used for admin? Admin@123. For normal user, user@123. Now let me go for authorities table. What is the meaning of authorities table? What is the meaning of authorities table? Roles of the user. Who is having which role? Admin is having admin role and user role. What about the user? User is having only user role. You can check that. Admin user having admin role and user role. Normal user is having only user role. Perfect. So with this, our database setup is done. Okay. A table is available, credentials available, roles also available. Now I want to tell my Spring Security, you need to authenticate the users based on database credentials. Okay, fine. Let me create the project for that. So in order to create that project, I have given the steps: web starter, security starter, data JDBC dependency, not data JPA. I'm going for data JDBC, then MySQL connector because our database is MySQL database, dependency Lombok and DevTools. Go to this file, new project, file, new Spring Starter project, Spring Security JDBC app, Spring Security JDBC authentication app. Right. Click on next. MySQL driver, web dependency, DevTools, Lombok, data JDBC. Okay. Spring data JDBC. Okay. Spring data JDBC and security starter. Spring security. 3 plus 3, 6 dependencies. Are we good? Web starter is available. Security starter is available. Data JDBC available. MySQL connector driver is available. Lombok is available. DevTools available. Click on next and finish. Yeah. JDBC authentication application got created. In this application, change the properties file to YML file. Now, with which database we want to connect, we need to configure our database credentials in the YML file. Okay, let me go for data source configuration in the YML. So what is the database name? It is JRTP. Okay, so what are the credentials of the database? Let me go to this. I forgot the username and password, guys. Workspace. Username and password root only. Schema name I have given as JRTP. So with this, I created one project. Observe the first step. First step is data setup. By using online encrypt, we encrypted our password and we inserted the records in the table. The next one, create boot application with the dependencies. We are good. Then configure data source properties in the YML file. Then create REST controller with required methods. So this is our REST controller. Do I need to explain anything here? So one is admin method, one is normal user method, and one is common method. Let me create one REST controller. Form.xml having issue. Do the Maven update. Maven update the project. Force update. Yeah, gone. Perfect. Create one REST controller, new class. I'm taking this as REST. Let me give this as user REST controller. User REST controller. Perfect. Just let me take this. No need to do anything else. 3 methods are available and this class is mapped to REST controller. So user REST controller, the annotation is @REST controller. There is a method. Who can access this method? I mean, as of now, there is no permission here. Just I'm giving the user-friendly URL pattern. Admin method, user method, and normal method. Normal method, anybody can access. This method can be accessed by only normal user. This method can be accessed by only admin. Admin can access this method and this method. User can access only this method. Admins and users can access this method. So I have given methods in such a way. One method is accessible for normal users and admin users. User method is accessible for only by user. Admin method is accessible by only admin. Admin having 2 roles, user role and admin role. Admin user can access both methods. Are you clear? Yes, REST controller got created. Next one, the most important thing in this is, security configuration. What is the meaning of security configuration? What is the meaning of security configuration? We need to tell that which methods requires security, for which methods security not required. Observe. Let me create one class. New class security configurer. The class name is security configurer. Okay. How to represent this as a configuration class? @configuration. I want to enable security. Enable web security. Now I want to customize that security. How we are going to customize that security? By using public security filter chain. Then I can configure security. What is the parameter? HTTP security. I will take it as HTTP. I will take it as HTTP. Then finally I'm going to return http.build. It will give some exception. Let me go for throws exception. Let me go for throws exception like this. Okay. Now I want IOC container to call this method. How can I do that? By using @bean. Now, if you see here, what is the configuration that I'm giving? Ant matchers slash. Slash means here we are having welcome. Let me give it as a welcome URL pattern. Any request which comes with a slash welcome, I want to allow that. Any request which comes with a slash welcome, I want to allow that. How can we configure that? Here, http.authorize http request. I'm going to specify request. I'm going to specify the request. HTTP request. I'm going to specify request dot ant matchers slash welcome dot permit all right, dot permit all, that I'm going to specify. HTTP request dot ant matchers ఏది నువ్వు పెట్టిన సాంగ్స్ కి తీసేయాలి మ్యూజిక్. రైట్, request dot ant matchers welcome dot permit all. What is the meaning of dot permit all? What is the meaning of dot permit all? Any request comes with the slash welcome URL pattern, I want to permit all the requests. Request dot ant matchers permit all. Then I'm going to specify ant matchers slash user who should access the method which is having slash user. The persons, the users who are having the user role or admin role. Admin can access admin method. Admin can access user method also. Now I am telling that any request which comes with the slash URL pattern dot has any role. Has any role. What is that role? He can have either admin role or user role. So as any role like admin or having the role like a user. Okay. Then next one, dot ant matchers slash admin has role, not any. If he is having only admin role, then only he should be able to access that method. Look at this, the role based security we are doing. Okay guys, so http dot authorize http request. Whenever a request comes, if that request is matching with the slash welcome, then permit all. And matchers dot welcome dot permit all. What is the meaning of the line number 18? What is the meaning of line number 18 guys? Any request which comes with the slash welcome, permit that. Now ant matchers slash user dot has any role. That means whenever a request comes from the user, if that user is having any role from the two, if he is having admin role, if he is having user role, then you allow that. If you get a request with the admin, if that user is having only admin role, then only allow that request. Are you guys getting my point? So here, let me write this once again. Observe carefully. My requirement is this method should be accessible by the users who are authenticated and who are having admin role. If you are a admin, then only you can access that. Simple. In our IES application, admin menu is available. Who can access admin menu? Only admin user. When caseworker login, admin is not accessible. Whatever the functionality available for the caseworker, admin can access caseworker functionality. Admin can access admin functionality also. What about caseworker? Caseworker can access only caseworker functionality. Are you guys clear with my point? Same concept here also. There are two methods available. there are two methods available. This method should be accessible only by the admin. Only admin users, admin role users can access this method. The users who logged in into our application, if that user is having admin role, then only they can access this method. What about this method? Admin and user role users can access this method. Normal users can access this method. Admin users also can access this method. What about /welcome? Everyone can access. Anybody can access. Anybody can access this method. Look at this. In the REST controller, there is no logic for security. Security logic is completely separated. In the REST controller, I have three methods. One method is a welcome method. That is public method. Anybody can access that method. Permit all. If the request coming with a /welcome URL pattern, permit all the requests. Okay. And any request which comes with the /user, that user, the person who is trying to access, he should authenticate in the application. He should have either user role or admin role. That means admin users can access, normal users also can access that method. And there is another method available. Who can access this method? This method is accessible by the users who are having only admin role. This method for admins, this method admin plus normal user, this method anybody can access. Okay. For that we need to write security configuration. For that we need to write the security configuration. See here how we are writing the security configuration for that. Authorize request, admin as role admin. If he is having only admin role, then only he can access that. If that person is having admin or user, he can access this. Welcome, anybody can access. Any other request, authenticate with the form login. See this. Now, HTTP object I have taken. HTTP dot authorize HTTP request. Whatever the request we are getting, I'm taking that request. Request dot ant matchers. I'm going to specify /welcome. What is that for the /welcome? Permit all. What is the meaning of that? Anyone can access. If the request is coming with the /welcome, then permit that request. Permit all. Then next one, already permit all completed, na? Then dot ant matchers. Any request which comes with the /user, then dot has any role. That means which users having roles can access. I wanted two users. One is admin role user can access. Another one is normal user also can access. Then next one, ant matchers /admin URL method. Who is having only admin role can access. Admin role can access. Then any other request, then dot authenticated. By using what? By using form login. Okay, guys? Right. So I'm taking HTTP object. For the HTTP object, I'm telling that you take the request. If the request matching with welcome, you permit that. If the request matching with /user, check does that user having admin role or user role. If any one role is available for the logged in user, allow the user request. Otherwise, block that. When a request comes with /admin, check that the user is logged in or not. Logged in user having admin role or not. If the logged in user having admin role, then only allow that. Otherwise, block that. Any other request comes, you authenticate that by using the form login. Are you clear with this? Fine. But the problem, where the credentials are available. Where our credentials are available? Earlier, our credentials are available in the properties file. Now where our credentials are available? Our credentials are available in the database. Now I need to tell to my authentication manager, you load the credentials from the database. Are you guys clear with this? So I need to tell that you load the credentials from the database. For that, I'm going to inject one data source object. What is the data source? What is the data source? Data source is used to tell that to which database we want to connect. So now already I have configured my database properties in the YML file. I configured my database properties in the YML file. So whenever our application started, it will load the YML data. It will store into data source object. It will create the connection with the database. Now I need to tell to my authentication manager, hey boss, credentials are available in the database table. I will tell you in which table my credentials are available. You execute the query and you verify credentials are matching or not. Okay. For that, we need to customize our authentication manager object. By default, authentication manager will go to user details. User details will get the user data. Will compare the data available in the user object with the form data. If it is successful, response. If it is failure, error message. But now in our scenario, where the credentials are available? In the database. In the database, credentials are available. Direct credentials or encrypted credentials are available. Encrypted credentials are available. Which encryption I am using? Bcrypt. Now, for authentication manager, observe carefully. This step is little confusing, guys. For authentication manager, I need to tell that, hey, authentication manager, credentials are available in the database. This is my data source object. By using this data source, you can get the connection. By using that connection, you go to a particular table, you verify my credentials available there. And remember, credentials are available in the encryption mode. I have used bcrypt technique for that. You also use the same technique to compare form data and database table data. All this information we need to tell programmatically. Whatever I'm explaining theoretically, we need to convert that into program. What I need to tell now? So user will send a request, login form will come. He will enter username and password. Where the credentials are available? In the database. Am I writing the logic to verify the credentials? So when you are not using Spring Security, then we should write that logic to verify username password matching or not. But when I go for Spring Security, do I need to write that logic? No, because inbuilt logic is available. Spring Security can verify our form data is correct or not. So in the Spring Security, who will do that verification? Authentication manager will do that. But where the credentials available? In the database. We know that. But authentication manager don't know that. I know that my credentials are available in the database. But Spring Security Authentication Manager don't know that credentials are available in the database. And that too, credentials are available in the encrypted format. Password is in the encrypted format. Now, what I need to tell to Authentication Manager? Boss, this is my data source object. You take the data source object. You get the connection from the database. In the database, this is the table. In that table, my data is available. You retrieve the data from the table. You take the form data. You compare. While comparing, you remember password is encrypted by using bcrypt. You encrypt the form password with the bcrypt and you match that with the database password. If it is matching, then authentication success. If it is not matching, authentication failure. That we need to write in the programming. Are you clear with the theoretical part? Yes. Can you tell me what I need to do now? Security configuration is done. Our REST API is ready. My methods are ready. My security is ready. Role-based security is also ready. The only part is user authentication part. Authorization completed. Authentication is pending. How to perform the authentication now? By using database. Who is responsible to perform the authentication manager? Authentication manager. What I need to tell to authentication manager? What I need to tell to authentication manager now? Take the form data and take the database data. You compare form data with the database data. If they are matching, successful. If they are not matching, failure. Are you clear? Good. For this, these are the 5 lines of code we are going to write. Say this. I'm writing one method with a name called auth manager. You can method name can be anything. You can write M1 also, no problem. The important part is method parameter. What is the important part here? Method parameter. What is that parameter I am giving? Authentication manager builder. Authentication manager builder is used to build authentication technique for the authentication manager. What I am telling to the authentication manager builder? Hey, you go for JDBC authentication. That means if Java application want to communicate with the database, JDBC API is mandatory. You go for JDBC authentication. Where is the database? For that I am setting the data source object. What will be there in the database data source object? Database credentials, database details will be available. Authentication manager, you perform JDBC authentication by using my data source object. Password is available with the bcrypt encoding technique. You also use the bcrypt encoding technique. So user by username query, you use this query to select a username password from the user table, and you select a user role from the authority table by using this query. We are telling the queries also for the authentication manager from which table they need to retrieve the data. Now I am doing auto wiring. What is the meaning of auto wiring? I am writing at the method level. So what is the purpose of that? This method will be called. For this method, what is the parameter? Builder will be the parameter. That builder I am customizing with my database credential. So this method is used for authentication purpose. To perform this authentication, I am using JDBC authentication. For the JDBC authentication, data source is required. The data source we are already configured in the YML file. And what is the purpose of this method? Authorization, security. For which method? Security required. For which user, which URL pattern is accessible, that we are customizing by using security filter. Got it? Now, if you imagine our second mini project, whatever we have done for login functionality, do I need to write that manually? In the real time, people will not write that because people will go for Spring security concept. Right. Now, let me run this application. Observe carefully what are the steps we have done now. The first step we have done, table creation. How many tables we have taken? 2 tables we have taken. First one is called user table and the second one is called authorities. Names can be anything. It's not mandatory that table name should be user and table name should be authorities. Table name can be anything. I'm taking the table name as users and authorities. In the user table, I'm inserting 2 records. One user is admin user, another user is a normal user. Username and password. Password, am I storing directly or I'm not storing directly? I'm not storing directly. I'm encrypting the password. Which technique I'm using to encrypt the password? Bcrypt technique. In the online, I have encrypted that. I'm inserting the records in the table. What is the next step? Insert the roles also. For user, what roles you want to provide? Insert the roles. Step 1, database setup. Set up database tables with the required data. 2 tables created, manually data also inserted for that. Next one, create the boot application with the dependencies. We are going for web starter and we are going for security starter. We are going for JDBC dependency. We are going for MySQL driver. We are going for Lombok and we are going for DevTools. Then after we configure data source properties in the YML. With which database we want to connect, the database properties I have given. And then next I created my REST controller. This is a normal process only. In the REST controller, 3 methods are available. What is the important part in this program, in this project? Security configuration. So are you clear with this method? So what is there in this method? Who should access which method? For which method security required? For which method security not required? We are configuring here. Then how to perform authentication? To perform the authentication, I am using JDBC authentication. What is the meaning of JDBC authentication? Credentials are available in the database. User will give the data in the login form. Login form data should be compared with the database table data. Programmer is responsible. Authentication manager is responsible. Programmer is responsible. Authentication manager responsible. Authentication manager responsible for that. Are you clear? Let's run this. Refresh. Maven, update the project. Right click, run as boot application. Password generated or password not generated? Not generated. Why? We have not configured that in the properties file. Sorry, we are configuring the authentication manager, so it is not taking our default credentials. Now let me try this. Close this. Okay, so let me check my REST controller. First one is what? Welcome. What is the configuration for the welcome? Everybody should be able to access. Localhost colon 8080/welcome. Yes, is it accessible or not? Yes, it is accessible because ant matchers welcome permit all. I want to permit all the requests coming to the welcome URL pattern. Then let me go for localhost colon 8080/admin. Then what happened? When I'm trying to access admin URL, what is happening? Admin URL, it is redirecting to form login. Why it is redirecting to the form login? I have given that as a form login. So if anybody want to access welcome, it will be allowed. But what about these two? Not allowed. For them, form login is required. Who can access admin URL? Only admin user. If a normal user try to access, can we test that? Can we test that? Yes, welcome is available for everyone. Let me go for localhost colon 8080/admin. What happened? Redirected to login page. Now I will log in into this application as a normal user. User @123. Where the credentials available? In the database. Now check this. Sign in. What happened? 403, not 401. 401 is different. 403 is different. 404 is different. What error I am getting now? 403, forbidden. What is the meaning of that? Boss, you don't have permission to access that method. You don't have permission to access that method because I logged in with which credentials? User credentials. For user, what access is available? User method is available. Admin method not available. Let's try this. Localhost colon 8080/user. User is able to access user method or not? User is able to access user method. Does user is able to access admin method? Not accessible. What it is telling? 403, forbidden. That means the user who logged in into our application, he don't have access for admin URL pattern. Okay, let me close this. Let me stop my server. Let me run again. Let me log in into application as a admin user. When I log in as a admin user, what will happen? Everything we can access. Every URL pattern we can access when we log in with the admin URL pattern. Refresh this. Right click, run as boot application. Clear the console. Go to browser. Localhost colon 8080/welcome. When I access /welcome, what is happening? What is happening with the /welcome? Everybody can access. Now, let me go for localhost /user method. What happened now? It is going for the login. When I access admin method, localhost /8080/admin. What happened? It is redirected to login page. Now, I will log in with admin user. Okay. What is the username? Admin. Password? admin@123. Click on sign in. What happened? Welcome, admin. I logged in as which user now? Admin user. Am I able to access admin URL? Yes. Can I access user URL also? Why I can? How can I access user URL also? Any role with admin or user can access user URL pattern. Go to browser, localhost /8080/user. Am I able to access this? Because that URL pattern I have given access for normal logged in users and admin logged in users also. Clear? Now, let me close this. Let me stop it and run again. Run as boot application. Go to the console. Clear this. Go to browser, localhost /8080/welcome. Everyone can access. Now go for localhost /8080/user, asking to sign in. I will sign in into application as a normal user. How can I sign into application with normal user? Username and password @123. Suppose if I give wrong credentials, click on sign in, then what is happening? See the beauty. Are we writing all this code? Everything is taken care by Spring Security. So let me give normal user credentials. User@123. I'm trying to log in with normal user, sign in. Am I able to access user method? Yes, I logged in as a normal user. Now I will try to access admin URL. Will it allow or it will not allow? It will not allow. What it is saying? 403. Boss, your role is a normal user. You don't have access for the admin URL. Got my point? When I logged in as an admin user, both URLs I'm able to access. When I logged in as a normal user, only user URL I'm able to access. Can I say this is role-based security? Yes, we can say this as a role-based security. How to configure role-based security? Look at this. How we are configuring role-based security in the Spring. Security questions are very common in every interview. How you are securing your application? What type of security you are using in your application? What is the Spring security? How to customize the Spring security? What is the security filter chain? What is authentication manager builder? What is the user detail service? What is the password encryption technique you are using in your project? What is the JDBC authentication? Okay, how to implement role-based security in the project. And they will ask a question. In my project, there are 10 URLs available. I want security for only 5 URLs, not for the remaining 5 URLs. How you will achieve that? So this is the method you need to explain. Guys, security concept is not that much easy to digest. You need to do a lot of practice on this part. So how to create security configuration class and how to customize the security for particular URL patterns, how to implement role-based security, how to go for JDBC authentication and all. Yeah, look at this. Session, browser to browser session will be different, no? Yes. Yes, we can do that. We can implement it. No problem. Yeah, this JDBC authentication, no? With the data JPA, it is not It's possible, but complex things we need to do that. JD, this one we can use it. In our projects also, we will use the same thing. Along with this, next level security is there. OAuth, JWT and all. We can apply. Come on, guys. Are you clear with the security concepts now? So in the next session, we need to understand what is OAuth security. So if you give 15 minutes, we can understand OAuth also. Enough for today? Okay, fine. Any questions, anyone from this topic today, what we have learned? No questions, sir? Able to understand or not able to understand? 40, 60. Let me give the notes. So what is the task for JRTP people? Yes, you need to complete admin module by tomorrow. That I will confirm. Tomorrow SBMS class required or not required? Yeah, fine. Resume preparation, guys. Yes, we have to do that. I will update you, sir. If possible, I will take it on Sunday or else Monday evening 6:30. I will take that. After Spring Boot class is completed, I will take that resume preparation class. Actually, I forgot that. So tomorrow Spring Boot class, we don't have it. So please practice that security concept. Okay. So tomorrow evening, that J unit workshop, some people attended last week. Continuation workshop is available tomorrow for J unit at the 6 p.m. and Sunday again 6 p.m. Java interview questions concept workshop is available. Don't miss those two workshops. And you people need to complete admin module development before coming to next class, right? So in the next class, I will check your admin module API. Whoever is completed, for them, I will explain AR module and I will give the SSA web API URL for that with the Swagger documentation. I will not explain anything. I will just give the documentation. You need to read that. You need to understand. You need to develop the client for that. Okay, guys. So tomorrow, no SBMS. SBMS next class is on Monday. Okay, fine, good. Tomorrow I will come for the JRTP. So any doubts anybody having, we can work on that. Okay, so please come to the class. Within the class, I want you people to see how you are doing the development for that. Okay, I hope all of you completed DB analysis. So you should start the coding part today. So tomorrow by afternoon, we have to complete that at least. So please come to the class along with your laptop. I will also come. We will see how you are working on that. Okay, if anybody is stuck somewhere, I will help you. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.